Eating fiber is food for gut bacteria that's making decisions about your brain, that's making decisions about your hormones. 95% of people don't eat enough fiber. 12 grams is what the average American gets, and you're supposed to get 25 to 30.
What are your favorite fiber sources?
My very favorite top ones are...
Wow. No, you just made a lot of listeners really happy. You know that there's a trend on social media now, fartmaxxing.
What is that?
It's people that are just trying to maximize the gaseous output. It might be beneficial.
Like cleaning you out?
And then also because you're giving your microbes like all this food for men.
When you're having gas and when you fart, it's actually because your gut bacteria could not digest that. So it's not necessarily a great thing. You can actually change your body quickly because these gut bacteria, they have very short half-lives. They're only living sometimes 12 hours or 24 hours. Within 3 days, you can get a whole turnover. If you drastically change your diet today, you're going to feel like a different person.
Are there any specific foods or additives or ingredients that are not good for the gut bacteria?
Obviously, antibiotics. If you can stay away from antibiotics, because that's literally poison. Exercise not only burns calories and grows muscle, but there's like this overall anti-inflammatory effect. Same thing with heat therapy. So you want to include that twice a week. It can be any version of it. If you want better mental health and you want better physical health, immune health, and hormone health, you have to care about that gut bacteria because that's literally they're making the decisions. Their decisions, by the way, are stronger than our own brain's decisions.
Dr. Amy Shah, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Thank you for having me back.
So fun.
Yes.
Is this like number 3 for you?
Yes.
Amazing.
We were looking back and I was like, I knew, I was like, at least I've done it twice, but this is time 3.
Third time's a charm.
Yeah, love it.
Well, I'm excited to celebrate your new book, Hormone Havoc.
Yes.
Very important stuff.
Yeah.
We've been talking quite a bit about perimenopause and menopause, and that was not on my life bingo card to become a, I'm not going to say expert, but somebody who's like relatively knowledgeable about the topic. But turns out millennials are now entering their 40s. Well, they're already in their 40s. Yeah. And it's a really important topic.
Well, that's the thing. Like before 1993, there was actually pretty much no research trials that had women in them, which is surprising. 1993 wasn't that long ago.
No.
It was 1993. The NIH was like, all right, we are mandating that you include women in medical trials. So literally there's like a big, huge gap in the literature because all the medications, the mainstream like medical problems that we think of, they were all only done on men. And then it's just so happened that perimenopause was completely ignored. So that is the one area of medicine that is the least studied out of everything. And so for me, it just became obvious because when I was talking about everything, I talk about nutrition, we talk about gut health, talk about exercise, brain health, I kept seeing like the people that really needed help were those women with their hormones because they didn't feel like they were getting it from their doctors. And me, like, I'm a physician myself and I felt like no one really knew about hormones. And it's so sad, right? Like that whole thing is so sad.
100%. It's not just that people were like ignorant about it. It was kind of a dirty word.
Yeah, totally. And the thing is, there's no test that tells you that you're in this phase of life. And so I think that's why there's so much confusion. So doctors don't know, patients don't know. And so everybody kind of just flows through life feeling like, is this aging? Am I just tired? Like, is something happening? No one told you that this is happening. So that's, I think, why it's really important. I feel like the biggest reason I wrote this book was like, I wanted to do something to advance that field, to even like give something to women to have a handbook because there isn't one.
There's no handbook.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are so many areas in life where we'd be so better off had we had been given like a handbook.
Right. It's like, that health class that we had for puberty was like awful and like traumatic for a lot of people, but like it at least like brought up the conversations, even with if it's between your parents or your friends. But we don't do that for other parts of our life. Like we should be doing it for menopause. We should be doing it for one of the book events I'm doing is menopause versus menopause. So we should be talking about that, right? Like what happens to testosterone? What happens to estrogen? What's going on that might be causing some of the things that you're feeling?
Yeah. I feel like menopause, perimenopause are always talked in the context of like it being ultimately this big bummer.
Yeah.
But I feel like we need to rewrite that script.
Yeah, because if you think about it, all the successful people that I know, women, are like in that age range, or people who have businesses, people who are doing big things in their life. That's the age that they're achieving this. So the fact that this is kind of like thought of as downhill doesn't make sense to me because most people are like at the peak of their careers at that time.
Yeah. So you offer this really powerful protocol. You want
Yeah.
to walk us through it?
Yeah. So, tell me what you think of this, because I think this is based on all of the nutritional research that's out there. It's 30-33. 30 grams of protein in your first meal, 30 grams of fiber throughout the day, and 3 servings of probiotic foods. And this is serving everyone, but especially that population that's going through a lot of hormonal gut muscle changes. And so really easy to remember, very doable. You can be keto, you can be paleo, you can be vegan, you can be carnivore, and you can still do it. That's why I think it's really something that I feel good about.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So walk us through what's the origin story of this.
So
protocol?
Basically, I was thinking everyone is talking about protein these days. We know protein is so important, but everybody's different, right? If you're bodybuilding, we talked about bodybuilding. If you're someone who only does Pilates or someone who is sedentary, third group, right? Your protein needs are different. And depending on your age, your size, your gender. So I don't think there's a one size fits all for protein. I do think front loading your protein has tons of data, thousands of studies looking at early protein intake early in the day, and looking at how that can impact your mood, your energy levels, your gut health, and your overall kind of ability to get protein for the day, right? So and I know, if you get your protein in the beginning of the day, you're much more likely to get to your goals at the end of the day. So I thought to myself, when I was the old me, like the busy, overwhelmed mom, doctor, like trying to do it all, what would I be able to do? And I was like, I could have done that. I think that's where I started, is like really just trying to get that protein in the morning. And I know for me now, the days I skip that, I feel like awful. And the days I do that, I feel just a noticeable difference. So that's where that came from.
Wow. And when you're not hitting your protein target for that first meal of the day, what is breakfast otherwise like? What does that look like for you? What does like a typical grab and go breakfast look like?
So like today, I'll give you an example, traveling, right? So it was a yogurt, Greek yogurt with berries, and I had a coffee, and then I had like a little bit of a brownie, and I just put some like a little bit of that on top of that, and that was a grab and go, super fast, and I was able to get my protein and be done in like 5 minutes.
And you hit 30 grams?
Yeah.
Dope. I feel like most people are just like grabbing like the bran muffin.
That's what, and that's the okay, so when we were in residency, I was at the Harvard hospitals, and they provided food like morning and lunch. And you can imagine like, oh, what would you give young doctors who are just like, fresh out of med school? And it was like the most awful, awful things. It was like donuts and bagels and orange juice. And then lunch would be like some kind of like restaurant that would like bring a meal, and there was like very little protein and it was like super oily. I just remember thinking like, I can't believe that's how we ate. I ate that way for like so many years because that's what we had. We had no time. And so that's what people are eating. I mean, I don't know, bagel and orange juice for breakfast. Like that was like a normal breakfast. And I think there's still people that eat that and feel like, their energy's crashing late in the morning. That's why, you're having that.
100%. I remember when I was in high school, I went to high school in New York City, and there was a bagel spot. This was junior high school. There was a really well-known bagel spot around the corner from my junior high school called Essa Bagel. And
I think it's still there, right?
I think it's still there on First Avenue and like 20-something Street. Yeah. And my breakfast most days of the week would be like, a bagel with cream cheese and maybe like a coffee with, milk and sugar or sweet and low.
Yep.
And that was it.
We had this like food truck outside of, I went to Einstein for med school, which is in the Bronx. And there was like a food truck like outside the thing, and we'd get breakfast there. And that was like, it was like bagels, bagel sandwiches, or like donut and coffee. That was like the things you could get. So shifting away from that kind of first meal of the day. And I'm also shifting away from like OMAD, for example. So like a lot of people do one meal a day, OMAD. And what I've seen from the literature, and now from the new research that we're seeing, is that it doesn't seem to be a good pattern. Like, you want to eat in a circadian pattern. You want to eat as much as possible when it's light out and as little as possible when it's dark out. And it just makes sense. Like, that's how we were programmed to be before Uber Eats and before like blue lights and all of that stuff. And so I've changed, like, I've not changed, but I've really kind of shifted to talking more about circadian fasting rather than doing a super long fast and skipping that breakfast altogether. Like, I don't think that people should eat their first, not, I don't think people should. It's not as good to eat your meal at 3 p.m. or later as it would if you ate it within, 4 or 5 hours of waking up, is what I mean.
So this is a pivot for you, because you were a big advocate
for
fasting.
Well, I was always a circadian fasting advocate. That was my thing. I actually talked about circadian fasting. But what I've learned is, like, circadian fasting could be extended. Like, you could do a longer circadian fast. But I've really realized, like, the research is really pointing to, not skipping a ton of meals during the day. Have either by accident or, doing it on purpose, it doesn't seem to be the best metabolic gift to your body. Think about it, like, all of us are really stressed and we already have some insulin resistance. And then you're giving your body a huge load, often like 8 p.m. or later, when your ability to process that much sugar is less. And we have good data that our body follows a circadian pattern when it comes to our pancreatic enzymes, insulin levels, our gut mobility, all of that stuff. So you're just going to be better off eating a bigger first meal. And I don't say breakfast because it could be a little bit delayed, first meal, and then skipping meals all day.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, you're less insulin sensitive as the day goes on.
That's right. And you make the best decisions in the morning.
Yeah. It's also like the point of the day where it's like, I feel like, at least for many people, it's easier to like kind of control the variables.
Yes. You have the most decision. That whole thing about decision fatigue. So you have the most power to kind of make the willpower, so to speak, to like make decisions. That's why there's all these people that wear the same clothes and like do all this. It's because of that decision. They want to kind of keep their willpower and decision like ability fresh for as long as possible. And so making that breakfast, doing that breakfast really early, early in your day, and making it high protein is like one of the best things you can do for your body.
So smart. What are some other high protein breakfast options?
Egg scramble with veggies. You can eat that, but if you did just an egg scramble, you'd have to eat like 5 eggs. So it's a big meal. Or you could do an omelet, and then you could do cottage cheese or yogurt. That could get you the 30 grams. You could do a smoothie, like a protein shake, get you 30 grams pretty easily. If you're vegan, you could do a tofu scramble, get there. So basically, a lot of things can get you there. And if you just rinse and repeat that could be super easy to do.
That's key too, to like have a set breakfast.
Set breakfast. It doesn't have to be fancy, because it'd be the same thing over. Like my brother did like the Kodiak pancakes, but he adds like extra yogurt and stuff like to make it like high protein, eggs and yogurt, and it's like a 30 gram pancake, and you can make that ahead. So there's like so many different options. I actually put recipes in here, quick ones, so that people are like, I don't know what 30 grams even looks like, and like I've never eaten that, what that might look like in real life.
So smart.
Yeah.
What do you think about egg whites? I'm a big fan of I'm a big fan of whole eggs, but I'm also a big fan of egg whites because they're such a concentrated source of protein.
Oh, 100%. Actually, I grew up vegetarian. My parents were from India, and they were vegetarian. And so my first exposure to eggs was like so weird, because eggs tasted really bad to me. But like egg whites to me is like, you can add them to anything, and they just blend into anything. You can make them in any way, and I actually love them now. And so yes, there's some benefits to yolk, so you could put one yolk in, or eat a yolk in another way, the choline and healthy fats and stuff. But you don't need egg whites are the best. You can add them to anything and everything.
So good, especially when traveling, when like you're eating out a lot, and restaurant food tends to be super oily, super fatty, just because of all the butter that they use, like, or, regardless of like what kinds of fats they're using. It's like restaurant food tends to be really greasy.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like if you're eating breakfast out, like I find when I'm traveling, like even though I know whole eggs are really nutrient dense, I'll sometimes just get like an egg white scramble in the morning just to economize and save those fat calories, which I know are going to find their way in whether I like it or not later in the day.
100%. Now, I used to be, now that I travel so much, like that's my strategy, is to get like an egg white scramble or some kind of like burrito or something in the morning, so that I kind of have my fat left over for the rest of the day. So it's like you're not eating a ton of fat in breakfast, but that's kind of a good strategy, is really planning what you're going to have for breakfast. So you can set that up. And then of course the second 30 is the fiber. And I think you and I both talk a lot about fiber, but I think people still don't get the fiber thing. Protein has made it into the mainstream. Fiber is like barely there. It's 95% of people don't eat enough fiber. 12 grams is what the average American gets, and you're supposed to get 25 to 30. And so my biggest thing is that it's not just about your gut. Like eating fiber is food for that gut bacteria that's making decisions about your brain, that's making decisions about your hormones. And so if you're someone who's going through a time where your hormones are in decline, or you're going through a time where you're really trying to up-level your brain health or your immune health, you're going to want to eat more fiber to kind of revive that gut bacteria. I always think of the gut microbiome as like an Amazon jungle with trillions of like organisms like intertwined with each other. And ours is like a barren wasteland, like an American's gut is like, so you need to revive that. You need to give them food and sunlight and water, and like that's fiber. It's like their fertilizer. It's
so true. What are your favorite fiber sources?
Okay, my very favorite top ones are chia seeds, because chia seeds, 1 tablespoon is 5 grams. Wow. So it's really easy to add that, and you're like, 5 grams. And for every 5 grams of fiber an American adds to their diet, they're reducing their all-cause mortality by 7 to 10%.
Amazing.
So like 1 spoon of chia seeds a day, you are lowering your mortality rate. So it's incredible. Avocados, super healthy fat, but really great source of fiber. And then berries, like raspberries, blueberries, amazing source of fiber. And then if you want stone fruits, like pears, an amazing source of fiber too.
Those are great.
Really surprising. Like, I think people think of fiber as like, it must be like Benefiber, like some Metamucil thing. It's really actually delicious foods that we would like want to eat that we're not getting.
100%.
So
what about for people who are like, but fiber, whenever I, add more fiber to my diet, it just makes me bloated. And
It's like the same concept of if you think about it like an Amazon jungle that's now become a little more barren, you can't just add all these new organisms back there and expect them to like thrive. It's going to be tough. You have to really start super slow. If you're having an average of 10 to 12 grams of fiber, you're going to add just a couple grams at a time. You can't go and have a bowl of cruciferous, like a bowl of broccoli and cauliflower, and think that you're going to feel fine. Like your body is not going to feel fine. You're going to be pretty uncomfortable
you're going to be farting.
Yeah. And you're going to be like so distended, and it's going to be very painful, because those cruciferous vegetables, I mean, especially when they're raw, they can be very difficult to digest if you don't have the right bacteria in your body. But over time, you can get the right bacteria. It's pretty crazy. I was telling a patient this, and they were so surprised, saying that if you're lactose intolerant, you can take kefir, just like 1 spoon a day, and train your gut to like grow some of those bacteria that can tolerate lactose, and you're going to be able to eat dairy foods. It's pretty easy, and like you don't have to buy all the lactase, and you don't have to worry about like farting and like feeling uncomfortable like when you're out with your friends. It's pretty cool thing that happened. Like a couple of studies showed that works really well. So that's a nice strategy if you are lactose intolerant.
You know that there's a trend on social media now called fartmaxxing.
I've seen fibermaxxing. I have not seen fartmaxxing.
Yeah,
what is that?
It's people that are just trying to maximize the amount of gaseous output that they produce.
They should eat those fake sugars. Do you remember those? Like, do you remember, you live in the city. So I remember living in the city and going to those health food stores, and they would have all these like healthy snacks and whatever, and they're all made of those fake sugars. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That could help with the fartmaxxing.
Yeah.
Like
Sorbitol, maltitol.
Yes. All the maltitol sugars. Yeah. Sorbitol.
Yeah. People are like, you can literally search for this on whatever,
TikTok?
like on TikTok or Instagram.
Sounds like a TikTok thing.
Yeah. It's I think mainly dudes that are doing it. I don't know why, but it's yeah. Like,
that's hilarious.
Seeing whatever they can do to just optimize the output for whatever reason. I think that in some pockets there might be like this subtext of a health benefit there.
Like
what they claim is that, it's beneficial.
Like
because
cleaning you out or something?
Cleaning you out, and then also because you're giving your microbes like all this food
gas.
To ferment, ultimately.
Okay, fermentation.
But I think
time?
mainly it's just like a fun challenge
That is hilarious. Well,
for guys.
I actually, from my understanding, the fermentation that's happening when you is because they can't digest it. So it's not necessarily a great thing per se. Like when you're having gas and when you fart, it's actually because your gut bacteria could not digest that, right? Couldn't help you. And so it's not necessarily a positive thing to have it. So I don't know.
No, people who are eating like the appropriate amount of fiber, it's not like they're walking around all day.
Yeah.
Like
if they're having the appropriate amount of fiber, they're not farting as much because their body has gotten used to it. And now they're farting less, actually. So like you'll see, for example, people that have like all these intolerances, gluten intolerance, lactose intolerance, like, I can't eat this, these people that can't order anything. And then as they start to heal their gut, they're going to be able to eat all the things that they thought they couldn't or shouldn't.
How long does that take?
So interesting, Max. So there's really good studies that show it only takes a couple days to change your gut. 3 days to change your gut, to start to change your gut. So like within a week or two, you'd be a whole new person if you started to change the way you eat. So it's pretty cool like that you can actually change your body that quickly. Because these gut bacteria, they have very short half-lives. Or lives, not even half-lives, very short lives. And so they're only living sometimes 12 hours or 24 hours. And so within 3 days, you can get a whole turnover. If you drastically change your diet today, by 3 days from now, you're going to feel like a different person.
Wow, I love that. And when it comes to fiber distribution over the course of the day, I mean, is it appropriate to try to get 30 grams of fiber in for your last meal of the day, or do you think it's better?
It's not the same as protein, where you're trying to, maybe some people are trying to optimize like when they're eating it to get it to the muscle the best. There's not really that great timing for fiber. We do know that you want to get different types of fiber, like you're trying to get 30 different types of foods in a week because the types of fiber that you eat all serve different bacteria. So like one thing, I love to eat the same way every week, but when you look at the studies, even for the fiber studies, the more varied you can be, at least week to week, the better it is for your gut bacteria because they like to eat different things. So that's why eating seasonal is really great. Like eating season, like summer season, eating for the winter season, because you're automatically giving different foods to your gut.
I love it.
Yeah.
And where does the 30 gram recommendation? I mean, I think it's a solid recommendation.
It's 25 to 30 grams is the recommended amount of fiber you should be getting. And 30 grams is the one that has the most data behind it in terms of better outcomes for all-cause mortality, for inflammatory health. Because the thing that people don't realize, we're all about inflammation, right? Lowering inflammation. But the gut bacteria actually produce anti-inflammatory compounds. Like it's like ibuprofen being produced inside of your body. It's like insane. So short chain fatty acids, they go all over your body, including your brain, as you know, to lower inflammation. And so why wouldn't you want to like build up your own factory of anti-inflammatories? Because that's going to help you not only now, but like as you get older and for diseases, brain diseases, health, and metabolic diseases too.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Are there any specific foods or additives or ingredients that are not good for the gut bacteria? Like any that you recommend? being mindful of and steering away from?
Obviously, antibiotics. If you can stay away from antibiotics, because that's literally poison. It's like we think about that analogy of the Amazon jungle again, it's like setting fire to the entire jungle to try to get rid of one bad plant, And so you don't want to be doing that unless you absolutely have to. Like if you have a disease that absolutely needs treatment, of course you need to take antibiotics, but to take it because you're not sure if you have a cold or you just went to Mexico and you're like, you just want to be careful, like don't do that. And I think people are starting to realize that, but I think for a long time that was the case. Oh my God, so many of the food additives that we're eating on a daily basis are bad for our gut. So, there's new data about the sucralose, Splenda, killing gut bacteria. There's great data about emulsifiers that are used in a lot of ice creams and different products to make it smooth are associated with lower gut bacteria. So much so that if you look at our generations past, like over generations, we have lost 50% of our gut microbiome that we even pass down from generation to generation because of the foods that we're eating. So like us so they've looked at people who are living in kind of those tribes all around the world, and they kind of have a gut very similar to our guts, maybe like a generation or two ago. They have way more bacteria and much more variation, like 50% more. And I think that just goes to show, like, if you want better mental health and you want better physical health, immune health, and hormone health, you have to care about that gut bacteria, because that's literally they're making the decisions. Their decisions, by the way, are stronger than our own brain's decisions.
What do you mean by that?
Like when they send signals, like to our brain, the gut bacteria make dopamine, they make neurotransmitters. They're stronger than our own. So they can override the decision your brain makes.
Damn.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Alien
totally
parasite.
It's literally, they can, and that's why it's so strong. It can be really great, but it can also make you depressed and make you feel tired and increase your inflammation levels. So if you think about, makes sense, right? Typical standard American diet. Why is everyone so sad? Like from the sad diet, because your gut bacteria are like, there's so few of them, and the ones that are there are not producing enough dopamine and serotonin. 95% of your serotonin comes from your gut. And then you're feeling sad and tired and not motivated. And you're wondering like what your diet has to do with it, but that's the link.
I always thought that it was primarily like, because it's such a modulator of inflammation, that like the brain inflammation axis was like the primary like mechanism, like when an organism is infected or inflamed, like it tends to be depressed,
Yes, that too. That's another mechanism. There's so many mechanisms for the gut talking to the brain that they used to think like, okay, the nervous system, so the vagus nerve is talking from the brain to the gut. Then they were like, oh no, now there's neurotransmitters or serotonin, and then they found out there's immune cells. Immune cells go from the gut to send signals there. Then they found out that there's like this new pathway now that doesn't use any of those like ways. So there's and then the short chain fatty acids, like those kind of things that the gut bacteria, that's another communication method. So there's at least 5 or 6 ways that they're constantly talking to each other. So think of it like kind of a command center. And I always think like for you, especially since you talk so much about the brain, the new data on the gut is that it's a command center that is inclusive. The brain and the gut are together making the decisions with each other, kind of like a walkie-talkie with each other. And they're kind of saying what we should do, how we should feel, what we should crave, if we should be energized or tired. So it's a really, really tight-knit connection. And you can imagine when you were in utero, the gut and the brain were connected.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then they kind of stretched apart. And so it was like they're always connected really, really, really strongly.
Damn. So all that is to say 30 grams of fiber.
Yes.
It's a good way to keep those bugs happy.
Yes, because that's their food.
Keep them in line.
But if you think about it, if they're starving to death and 95% of us are starving our gut bacteria to death, how can you expect us to feel good and happy and healthy? And like, it just makes so much sense that fiber should be something that we're focusing on all the time. And it's probably the one thing I think nobody's focusing on, except for the third part of the 30-33, which no one is focusing on, is probiotic foods. So fermented foods like your yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut, even raw apple cider vinegar. If you don't tolerate dairy, there's so many new options. Like you go to your local store. I just went to Erewhon on the way here, and it was like coconut water, kefir, and there's so many. I mean, fermented foods were from every single culture in the world, and so you can find different options for you wherever you go. But it's not even a part of an American diet. Like if you ask most people, they've probably either never eaten it or only eaten it when on vacation or traveling or going to an ethnic food restaurant, right? So we need to change that, because probiotic foods actually are very well connected with mood and motivation, mental health disease. I mean, we have so much data on not only the food affecting our mental health, but also hormones, and because it's helping your gut. So once you help your gut, you can help the rest of your body. And people don't understand probiotics are actual bacteria. So fiber is a food for the bacteria, and then the probiotics are actual bacteria. They're the bugs that live within the food that you want, that get to your colon, your large intestine, and then that's where they join the other friends that are there, the trillion other friends that are there, and help them make decisions, help with mental health. So we know so much about probiotic foods, yet we barely ever even talk about it. I don't know. Did you follow? If you saw that news story of that, the longest living woman in Spain. She was like 117.
Whoa.
117, yeah. She had a bunch of doctors do tests on her before she died. And they were like, her gut microbiome is so amazing. They thought maybe it's like genetics, freak genetics. Turns out she was eating yogurt 3 times a day, every day for her entire life.
Wow. She
ate like a Mediterranean type diet, very, very like unprocessed diet. And she did a lot of things right, but it was weird because they were like, the one thing she never changed like for over like 70, 80 years was that she was eating yogurt like multiple times a day. And It was like part, the local fresh yogurt. And so it just food for thought, because I think to myself, like, God, I went to nutrition school. Like there was like, no, I don't ever even remember the word fermented or probiotic. That was like not a thing. But if you look at the research, it's such a thing. And so I thought to myself, if nobody gave me this framework, I would have never known, right? If I didn't ever look at the literature, or I didn't work with patients for 15 plus years, like I would have never known this. So why don't I write it down? And it's easy to remember, 30-33, and like you can work towards it. I'm not saying like tomorrow you need to do it. I would say the 30 grams of protein might be the easiest one to master, and then maybe you try the fiber, and then maybe you try the fermented foods, because fermented foods for people for some reason is like very like intimidating. I know for a fact, I think you've mentioned it before, but you like kimchi, you like all that stuff. A lot of people hate, like they don't either know what it is, or they hate it, or they think it's like gross, so it's
so weird. Kimchi's like the best thing ever.
And then now there's like all this mainstream stuff like probiotic cottage cheese, like that cottage cheese is having such a moment, and you can get a probiotic version of that. So it's actually not that hard, and you just need a spoon of these to be considered a serving.
Wow, that's it. So it's 3 servings of the food,
probiotic foods,
a day?
Yeah, a day.
Wow. So it's not 3 strains or
no,
whatever.
It's just 3 servings. So you could do 3 yogurt in a day if you wanted, but like it's even better to get different types, so you can get different types of bacteria. So I had a patient who she would just like, she's like, I'm so busy, I'm just going to put some raw apple cider vinegar and water for my one. Easy, super easy. People will have a yogurt or, a probiotic cottage cheese at one of their meals. Also super easy. And then you have one more left. So you can do either kimchi or sauerkraut. You can do, and so the good news about sourdough and a lot of fermented doughs from all over the world is that even though you're killing a lot of the bacteria because you cook it, those bacteria still help the gut. They
Whoa.
work as postbiotics. And so postbiotics are all the rage right now in the literature, because think about it. If postbiotics work really well, then we could easily package that up, because they don't need to be living. They don't need to be heat. You don't have to worry about them going dying like we do with probiotic foods. Or like you pick up something off the shelf, and if it's probiotic, you don't know how many probiotics are left. But with postbiotics, you don't have to worry about that, because it's dead bacteria. So sourdough, amazing for your gut, because it's got that postbiotic in it.
Wow. No, you just made a lot of listeners really happy, because I know that sourdough is like a thing that people are
such a thing
enjoying making now at home, which I'm envious of, because I love sourdough, and I have no idea how to make it myself. But that's awesome to know.
And also like kombucha. If people are all into making kombucha at home, it's way better to do it that way, so you don't have to add all that sugar that a lot of the brands in the store are delicious, but they're like, if you look at the label, you're like, wow, that's a lot of sugar. Even if some of that sugar is fermented out, like that's still like a sugar load. Like I would get I don't know if it's from the sugar, the fermentation, but whenever I have kombucha that's high sugar, I get kind of like a headache, like I used to get when I would have sweet foods. And so I was like, this is clearly has a lot more sugar than it may even say, because you can kind of feel it. You got to be careful with kombucha. That's like the one thing I think is hard. That's why now the new options that we have, like kind of the lower sugar kombuchas, or the coconut water kefirs, or like there's a lot more options now for drinks that are, but the big popular drinks that are gut healthy, they don't actually have probiotics in them.
Here's a fun fact about kombucha. You can literally buy raw kombucha from the supermarket, and you can use that as the starter to your own SCOBY.
Did you do that?
I did it once.
Okay.
Yeah. I got this big ass jar.
Yeah.
And I went to the store, and I think it was just like GT's basic
yeah.
kombucha. I poured it into this jar, unflavored, like the original flavor. And then I brewed some black tea, and I put a bunch of sugar in it, because the SCOBY, the bacteria, needs sugar to ferment. I let that cool off to room temperature, because you don't want to scald the live bacteria. And then I just poured it into the jar where I had that original thing of kombucha. Leave it out at room temperature. And then... Did
you have to put a lid with like some holes in it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, yeah. That's what I did.
Yeah, I don't think I think as long as you you don't necessarily need the holes. I think you can like put an actual lid on it, so long as there's like room for some of the gases to come out, and then you just burp it occasionally.
You have to burp it. You have to burp it.
Yeah. But yeah, like after a couple days, like weeks, you start to see at the top forming this alien organism, which is the SCOBY.
Yes, and that's the magic.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing.
I've done it, but I don't do it enough. Same thing as you. It's like, it was fun. It was like an experiment. And then I was back to going to my Whole Foods.
Yeah. Well, because you got to maintain it. You got to keep feeding it. Otherwise it'll die. Yes. And you got to keep drinking it. And
I like that other, I don't know if you've tried I think it's called like Go Gut This or something. I might be getting it. It's like a coconut water kefir that you just need 1 spoon of. It's like concentrated. It's not meant to be drank, the whole thing. And it's a really great way to kind of get that third serving if you're like looking for it, or there's like so many different things. But I can tell you that so many people I know that have started the 30-33. I started this on social and then my patients, and I got so much feedback on it. I was first going to do the book just around the 30-33 because it was like so transformational, and so many people would write to me and like say like, oh, I did this for a week and I feel like a different person. Same thing, like your mood is better, your energy is better, your hormones are better, your immune system works better. And then I really was like, this is it. Like I want to like talk more about it but the thing is like, even if what we did is the main premise is like, try to get that. Here's how to, here's why, and here's all the recipes, and also like a meal plan guide, like how would you split it up between for a day busy person, because all of us are so busy. We just want like a done for you kind of plan. And everybody always asked me for that. And I was always like trying to hedge, you know, oh, it depends on you, like what you want to do. But then it forced me to kind of like put things down to be like, okay, this is how you would structure your day if you actually wanted to do this. And then I got feedback from people that like, you know, it's much easier to do yogurt and cottage cheese and raw apple cider vinegar. Those seems to be the easiest. So I included a lot more of that than the sauerkrauts and kimchis and the miso and, you know, tempeh and all that stuff. That's a little harder for people to like learn if they're new. So kind of added it like that.
Yeah, but that's the amazing thing about AI. Have you ever experimented with like ChatGPT?
Yes.
You can literally type into ChatGPT. You could say, hey, Chat, create a 7-day meal plan for me where, in accordance with Dr. Amy Shah's recommendations, I'm starting my day with 30 grams of protein. Every day I'm getting 30 grams of fiber, and incorporate 3 servings of probiotic foods every day.
I mean, people should do that, right? Like that's amazing. If you can like get yourself a menu and you can say, leave out cashews, like don't put in, you know, fish or whatever you want to say.
I'm lactose intolerant or I hate kimchi. You can say whatever you want. Yeah.
It's so cool that
I'm on a budget, like making meals, you know, less than $5 a meal or something.
Yeah. And or like it all has to be really easy fast food or like easy to go stuff. So I feel like, and I don't think I need to explain it to you, but I think people don't understand what nutrition has a power to do. Like food literally has a power to change your entire life. We know that food can change your gut within 3 days, but it can change like your entire, you know, brain health, body health, muscle health also. So like nutrition really needs to be so much more of a focus. And I think I'm happy that everybody's like talking about nutrition now. I always joke because when I went to med school, I was literally the only person who had gone to nutrition school before. Like they looked at me like I was like a music major, like coming to med school. Like they were like, so you talked about nutrition, like what, like a dietitian or what? And it was really looked down upon. Like it was like you were like a cheerleader trying to be like a football player. Like they were like, who are you? And now I'm so excited because it's like everyone's so into nutrition. They want to learn more. They want their doctors to learn more. They want to learn more. It's a really cool time to be talking about this. It's
so great. I love it. Like the tools of AI. I always say that like today, the modern world, it's like, it's like there are two extremes. Like on the one hand, it's easier than ever to slide into obesity. Yeah. Unfortunately today, because at arm's reach all the time, 24 hours a day, you have access to these cheap, highly palatable, ultra processed, mega calorie dense foods. But on the other hand, like we have access to AI, we have access to experts on social media. We have GLPs if you want to go that route. Which, no shame. Yeah. We have access to protein and fiber enriched ultra processed foods. Everything. Right?
Everything. So we make it, you know, that's why I think that I think the GLP ones, whether you love it or not, it's here to stay.
I agree, yeah.
And I think people are like, you know, it's like technology, like you can hate it if you want, but it's not going anywhere. Yeah. It's just more and more. Like, I think I talked to 3 random people today, and it came up in conversation. Someone's on Mounjaro, and I was like thinking to myself, like, this is just how it's going to be. It's just going to be more and more people are using these medications for different reasons. Like I said, not saying it's good or bad. Obviously, we can say, you know, people, if they have a great healthy lifestyle, exercise, they may not need to go that route, but in some cases they do. But it's easier than ever to really try to use nutrition to your advantage, because now if you understand protein, if you understand fiber, and now like I'm talking a lot about probiotic foods, but the more I talked about fermented foods, the more I would come up around research or like studies and things. I'm just really impressed with the probiotic foods. However, it's the hardest one for me to get on a daily basis because, like, think about it. When we're traveling, you're busy. Like, how do you get probiotic foods? There's no, like, nothing you can take through, like, security that's, like, you know, it's very, very difficult. So I've tried to you can't take yogurt, you can't take chia seed, like, nothing that's, like, fermented, it's very hard to take. We need to like have more food options that are for the busy on the go person that are probiotic.
Yeah, fermented foods on the go.
Yeah.
But also going back to the GLP-1 thing, I think it's important to acknowledge that even if you're on a GLP-1, you still should not, it's not in your best interests to be ignorant to nutrition, because you don't want to lose muscle.
Yes.
You want to lose primarily fat. It's still important because there's also a big relapse rate. Like
yes.
when people come off these drugs, they regain the weight unless the healthy habits, the self-monitoring, all that stuff is in place. And when you're on them, it's forced anorexia.
Yep.
So you're definitely going to want to, you have to pay extra attention to the nutrient density of your food, of the protein density of your food, so as not to lose valuable muscle. You don't want to end up skinny fat.
Which is like
you don't want to end up, what is the term? It's normal weight, metabolically obese.
Right.
Right.
And that's what's happening to a lot of people, because it's very easy to not eat at all. You know, it's like very hard to, and that's why I think it's really important to get that protein in the morning if you can, because it sets yourself up for a better chance of getting protein for the full day. And also, if you're someone who's not very hungry, it's probably the best time to kind of get as much protein in your body as possible. Maybe you work out around that time, so it has a lot of benefits. But yeah, that is a big issue. I think GLP-1s has really kind of opened the door to like a lot of new situations that we didn't really even have to think about before. Usually, back when I was a younger doctor, it was like if you were thin and active, you could pretty much assume that metabolically you were pretty healthy, and your muscle mass was pretty good, because how would you be that thin, or, relatively thin? But now you could be thin, but never moving your body. You could be eating complete junk food. And you could be like metabolically really unhealthy because you're taking these medications that are not letting you eat. So yeah, obviously it's an amazing solution for certain people, and it's also creating new problems that we never even knew about like before.
Yeah. What about, because I know that, for somebody who's obese, like, don't worry about the risks of the drug, because the risks of obesity are probably way more well defined.
That's obvious, right?
Yeah.
Like you are on the brink of, death, diabetes, heart disease, anything that can get you away from that, you should be doing. Like blood pressure medications, cholesterol, whatever you need to get you, better, do it, right? But I think the other discussion is like, what about people who are not in that situation?
Yeah. What do you think? Because we're in LA, like there's a lot of people that are taking it like for vanity purposes.
Well, there's a lot of things, like for example, the person I talked to earlier today had PCOS, and we know that PCOS is like a state of insulin resistance, and you can basically, these people are people who have tried their whole lives to be, diet or be normal weight, and they really, really struggle. And so even though this person didn't look obese, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense, because PCOS will respond. So there's a lot of cases like that where it's inflammation based, because it's for inflammation. So there's a lot of arguments you can make that, okay, I need it for this purpose. But if you're someone who, there have been cases where people become severely underweight because they're taking this and they were already, thin to begin with. So there's definitely that risk. And then the sarcopenia risk is the biggest one, I think. We're already, like someone like me, if you're in perimenopause, you're already losing muscle at extraordinary rates. You're already losing bone density at extraordinary rates. You want to do everything in your power to be building muscle and not breaking it down, right? So it's kind of dangerous for people like that in that phase of life if you're not working out, lifting heavy, and eating adequate protein.
Do you tend to prescribe exercise? And if so, what form?
Yeah, so I actually did it in the book because I thought to myself, okay, the next question, okay, we got the 30, 33, but like, how do we move? What do we do? So there's a mnemonic for that too. It's 4-3-2-1 that I talk about. And you're going to like this because the 4-1 is movement that you love. So we know you look at naturally long living people, centenarians, there's lifelong movements that people do. Biking, hiking, dancing, whatever it is, you do your movement that you love. If you don't have one, pick walking. Do that 4 days a week at least, right? We know that that's what it takes to grow the hippocampus in our brain. You can grow, people don't know this, but you can grow your brain even as an adult. And we have good studies that's saying simply walking can grow the hippocampus part of our brain. And that's like such an easy way to kind of anti-age your brain is like, just go for a walk, right? So 4 times a week, you want to do some movement that you love, and preferably something that's associated that makes you happy, longevity, the time goes by. It's like that thing that you don't have to make yourself go and do. Like, it's not the class that you're like trudging through. It's the thing that you love. And everyone needs to find that, because I find so many patients and people on social that don't have a thing that they love. They don't have an activity that they're like, I look forward to this. I'm like, go find whatever it is. It could be like a new thing that you never did before, but you find something that you actually enjoy doing.
Fartmaxxing.
Fartmaxxing. That could be, you could walk. That's not exercise, but 3 is weight training, because we know that you need it at least 2 to 3 times a week. 2 is like minimum, probably 2 minimum for most people. You need about 2 to 3 days. So 3 is the weight training, and that could mean for women, I'm telling them like, pick a weight that you can only do 3 to 5 reps with, because if you pick a weight that's like, the ones on the bike, or like, it's like you can do 45, like that's not the one that's going to stimulate your muscle and bone growth. So if you're really looking for that, you want to get weights that are heavy for you. And then doing things like pushing and pulling with them, like squats and farmer's carries and pull-ups and push-ups and anything that's pulling and pushing, because that's going to stimulate that muscle and bone. So that's 3 days a week. The 2 is heat therapy. So heat meaning like sauna or some exercise in heat, like hot yoga or anything where you're in heat for about 20 minutes or so. So you want to raise your core body temperature to get those heat shock proteins. Think for people who don't know, we have great literature from Finland, hundreds of thousands of people who use sauna on a daily basis. And we've seen that they have lower all-cause mortality. The people who use the sauna the most, they have better heart health and brain health. And also HGH, like human growth hormone, goes up when you're doing heat therapy. So we think it's because of those heat shock proteins that get released, kind of like exercise, where exercise not only burns calories and grows muscle, but there's like this overall anti-inflammatory effect. Same thing with heat therapy. So you want to include that twice a week, whether it can be any version of it. I mean, we have data on Japanese hot baths. You sit in a hot bath. So you want to do that. And then the 4, 3, 2, 1. 1 is 1 sprint session a week. So high intensity, 85% of your max heart rate. You want to be getting there for once a week. And for a lot of people, they have never sprinted after high school, or never put their heart rate in that zone since leaving school. And nowadays, I don't even know if school gets to that heart rate. So it's like getting to that. When I heard that data, a couple of years ago, I was like, because I had just switched to like weightlifting a little more. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I'm like only going to the gym now and going to yoga. Like I don't really like, I used to do a lot of that. I was running, I was doing all this cardio. And so that was like, okay, no, you have to, if you don't exercise your heart, if you don't stretch it to its max, at least once in a while, it's never going to get stronger. It's just going to keep deteriorating over time. And so they actually, you might be familiar with this study, but there was a 2-year study out of Texas where they took sedentary individuals and they put them on a 2-year exercise plan. They found out that after 2 years of exercise, at about the 1 year, 6 months point, they added the 1 sprint, because the sprint workout is probably the last one to add if you're trying to get into working out again, especially if you're sedentary. their heart looked 20 years younger than when they started the study in this 2-year span.
Wow.
It's like incredible, right? Like what you can do, if you can anti-age your heart by 20 years, like what other thing could do that?
That's
like
amazing.
Exercise is just insane. And it wasn't anything fancy. It was cardio, weight training, and then that sprint once a week. And so that's why for me, I was like, well, that's convincing, right? Like do something that stretches your heart, makes your heart work a little harder for that once a week. And it can start my first day when I saw this. I was like at the gym and I did one sprint and I hadn't sprinted in a long time. It was like 30 seconds and I was done. Like 30 seconds, I was like, okay, I'm done for the day. And that's okay. And then you just come back and you get into it pretty quickly. And I still have to force myself to do it once a week.
It sucks.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to. I mean, the more you do it.
I mean, you can go to a class. Like there's this class in Scottsdale that I go to that is like a sweat. It's called Sweat, and it's supposed to be like cardio, high intensity. I just sometimes just do that because I don't want to think and I don't want to make myself. Because if I try to do it for myself, I'll like maybe not do it. And it doesn't, for some people, when I say sprint, it doesn't have to be on a treadmill like it sounds like it does. It could be on a bike. It could be hills. It could be anything that gets your heart rate.
Battle ropes.
I can't get I think everyone's different, but for me, the hill sprints are the one thing that can get me to my max heart rate. I think everyone, like when I bike, it can't even get that. Maybe it's like my legs don't even move that fast. So it depends on you, but you want to do something that pushes your heart so it can anti-age, because as you get older, your heart gets smaller and stiffer, and you want it to be soft and flexible and strong. And that's why it looked younger. It looked 20 years younger, is because like when they looked at it in the heart scan, it looked softer and it was stronger and more flexible and less stiff. And so pretty incredible data.
Yeah. What is that? Vascular compliance?
Yeah, vascular compliance. Yeah. And, your ejection fraction can be stronger and harder. Your heart is a muscle. Like you need to exercise that muscle too. And I know we talk so much about all of our muscles, but we don't talk enough, I think, about that. Because I think for a long time and for the last 5 to 10 years, we've been talking so much about muscle and like building muscle that I even kind of like got away from like, doing things just to like get the heart healthy. But that's incredibly important. That's like the number one reason why people die is like heart attacks.
It's super important. How do you measure progress with regards to like cardiovascular health?
Okay, so it's super hard. Okay, the gold standard is VO2 max. Have you had that done with the mask?
No. I mean, I did at some point in my life.
Yeah, so the official test, as you know, is like you wear this mask and you run on the treadmill and they kind of push you to your max. So you're like running forever.
It sucks.
Yeah, and then at the end, they're pushing you to the max and they kind of see how well you can oxygenate. VO2 max is the gold standard. If you are not doing VO2 max, one of the things you can check is like your resting heart rate. As you get more in shape, your heart gets stronger. Your resting heart rate gets lower because it doesn't have to pump as many times to get the same amount of stroke volume because it's stronger. So a lower resting heart rate can be good. But as you know, that's also convoluted because some people have a lower resting heart rate. Some people just can't get their heart rate down. So and some people are stressed and their heart rate just tends to be higher. So that's one not as good figure. And then the other one is like, how long can you sustain the 85% max heart rate? So for example, for me, like that first time was like abysmal. I was like done. I was literally like at 10 seconds, I was like, I feel like I've been running forever because I was trying to push myself to the max. But what we know is like, if you can keep it sustained, like the official thing that they did in the study is the Norwegian 4x4. Have you ever done that?
No.
Norwegian 4x4 is 4 minutes of keeping your heart rate at 85%. And then taking a break and like doing something like easy cycling or something for 3 minutes to kind of like recover. And then doing again 4 minutes of 85%. And you do that 4 times. And that's like the Norwegian 4x4 protocol. And that's like the ideal one that you would do for high intensity. So like when we go to high intensity classes here in the, most of us, we're going hard, but like for a couple of seconds or maybe like a minute, and then we're stopping. We're not going for 4 minutes.
That sounds awful.
Yeah.
I honestly don't even know if I could sustain that. Like 4 minutes at 85%.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's really intense, but that's what they did. Because, 85% of your max heart rate, to sustain that for 4 minutes, you have to be in pretty good shape to do that. And so if you do that, and then you take a break for 3 minutes and do that again. So what you're working towards when you're doing your high intensity work is to eventually be able to do it for that long. And so you're asking me, how do you know if you're getting better? If you can actually get closer to that.
Damn. Get your doctor's approval first.
Yeah.
Guys.
Obviously, this is not something you want to try if you've
Don't sue us.
Yeah, exactly.
That sounds risky.
Well, I think.
Or maybe not. I don't know.
Well, it's not really risky. I would say like getting heart rate 85% of your max is not going to your 100%, right? And so you're still in that range. If you know your numbers, you're still in a range that's really healthy. Obviously, if you're someone who's just had a heart attack or like, you have labile blood pressure, like, all these other medical conditions, you need someone who's going to like walk you through this. So there's like special physical therapy for people who've had a heart attack that actually gets their VO2 max up. So you need someone who's going to like watch you, make sure you're not passing out or like having angina or something like that. But in general, like everybody should be doing some form of this, whether it's by themselves or with some assistance.
Now, max heart rate, correct me if I'm wrong, is it still 220 minus your age?
Yes.
Okay, so 200.
Roughly.
Roughly estimate, yeah. But
Yeah.
220 minus your age. And then whatever that is, that's your max.
Yeah.
So then take out a calculator and multiply that by 0.85. And that's your heart rate.
For your high intensity work.
For your high intensity, 85%.
So like if you have a machine like a Peloton or something, they can help you get your heart rate zones. So for any of us, I got a Peloton years ago, and one of the best things they did is like they do a test for you. Like you do a test on the screen, and a lot of people out there who have Pelotons, you can do that test and you can find out what your max heart rate is, what your 85% is, so you know your zones. And that can be really useful when you're doing like any of these other things. Getting a heart rate monitor is really, really important, I think, if you're going to do any of this stuff, because sometimes in the middle of a workout, you need to check to make sure that you know where you're at with your health. I mean, one of the best things I think about the wearables that I found is like heart rate monitoring, right? Like you can check your HRV, you can check your resting heart rate, you can really kind of get a feel of your heart health in a snapshot just by some of these easy numbers.
Have you found your Apple Watch to be accurate?
It is good enough. For heart rate, it's great. So if you're like on a treadmill and you're trying to see how fast your heart's beating, it's pretty good. It's not as great for HRV. For anyone who doesn't know, it's heart rate variability is HRV. I think the Ring is a little bit better than that. And then there's a 8 Sleep that's actually, I think, better than that too. They are good ways to do HRV testing. HRV is like, I think, really, really useful. I don't know. Do you monitor your HRV?
Well, my 8 Sleep does it for me.
Yeah. What's your HRV? I'm curious. Okay, so HRV is like how well your nervous system is regulated. So if your HRV is dropping really low, for me, I know I am not doing a good job managing my stress.
Isn't it highly individually like variable?
Yes.
Like similar to what you were saying about heart rate?
You want to measure it for your, like,
yeah.
But there's some benchmarks, like, women tend to have lower HRVs than men, and as you age, your HRV goes down.
So my resting heart rate, according to my 8 Sleep, is 52 beats per minute.
That's amazing.
Below average.
Yeah, that's great.
It says average is 56. My heart rate variability is 35 ms. 35,
that's good.
Yeah, which is above average. So that's interesting.
Well, is that above average for you?
That's a good question.
Today, yeah, because that's
Oh yeah, above average for me. My 7-day average is 29.
Yeah, that's
so
low.
It's above average.
I mean, I'm not saying it's like it may be normal for you.
So
but
you want higher is better with heart
higher
rate
is better.
Okay,
Yes.
Interesting.
So when you'll notice, okay, check on a day. You can do this fun fact is check on a day where you were on vacation or like not like you didn't have work the next day or you didn't have any stress. Your HRV will be like sky high. And then the day that you have a deadline the next day or you have a book launch or like for me, like my 8 Sleep scores have been terrible because the more stressed you are, the lower your HRV. And so it's a great way to check your recovery. And for you, your resting heart rate is so low. This is so great. But again, that could be just how you were, like, that could be genetic a little bit. But if you notice that your heart rate has fallen, like if you were last year, you were like 59 and now that's an amazing sign that your heart's getting healthier.
Oh, interesting.
So you should check your like trends over the year that you can do. By the way, 8 Sleep's like my favorite.
Yeah, my 12-month average. Yeah, no affiliation with 8 Sleep, but I love it. I sleep with it every night.
I love 8 Sleep.
My 12-month average is 56 beats per minute. And last night was 52 beats per minute.
Good, so you're getting better.
Yeah, and my heart rate variability over time, my 12-month average is 28 ms.
But today it was good.
Today was 35, it was a little bit higher.
That's great.
But then also my breath rate is low. It's 15.5 BRPM. I don't know what that stands for, breaths per minute.
Per minute, yeah.
Or something. I
Yeah.
don't know.
And then also your deep sleep and your REM can also give you insight about how well you're managing your stress. So there's a lot of stuff we can do that's like very fancy. So sometimes I'll look at people's deep sleep because your deep sleep tends, well, it depends on the person, but deep sleep tends to go down when you're stressed also. And you need that deep sleep along with REM sleep. And so you can do a lot of things to kind of, I think one of the biggest problems I see in women and men that are high achieving is that they can do the food and they can even do the exercise. They have a hard time with this like HRV stuff. It's like they tend to be on the lower side. They tend to have poor sleep because we tend to hold a lot of stress, especially if you're doing a lot of things in your life like you are, I am, or lots of people are. I think that's the hard part to do. But
Wow.
So one of the things I talk about in the book is like a lot of data on circadian rhythms. So, sunlight is one of the best ways to get your HRV up and to get your stress levels down. So getting enough adequate sunlight during the day and getting enough sleep at night, circadian rhythms can really transform your health, especially the stress part.
Super interesting. Yeah, I don't really do that much cardio, to be honest. I walk a lot. I do a lot of like zone 2.
Yes.
And I lift a lot.
Yes.
But I don't do this like sprinting thing.
That's what I'm saying.
Running.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was the same way because I used to run all the time and then I stopped running. And then I was doing this whole weight thing and I love yoga. So I do yoga all the time. But sprints have this, there's more and more data. There's actually a new study that shows I think it's like for every 1 minute of sprint is like equal to like, I don't know, like insane amount of minutes of like
Whoa.
regular, just because of the load that you give your heart. So it's worth incorporating if you haven't. And like I said, it can be like hill walking, like for you, it doesn't have to be running per se. It could be biking. It could be any kind of, and for me, like I mentioned, I kind of sometimes just force it, go to a class or go to something that's going to force me to do it. And then I'm done for the week.
So smart. Well, I'm so excited for your book, Hormone Havoc.
Thank you.
People should pick it up. Super important.
I hope so. I really feel like we need to do things to advance women's health. And like we said, there's not enough help for them and not in the research. And if we don't promote it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Whether you're a lady or you've got one in your life, definitely a worthwhile gift to either yourself or to that person in your life, packed with insight. And it's a super, super important topic. And now we're living longer, right? So you're spending more and more of your time, in that sort of post-menopausal window, right?
Oh my God. Somebody told me that women spend like 40 years, like after, up to 40 years after menopause. So it's like most of your life
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's really, and that we're one of the only species in the whole animal kingdom that even goes through menopause.
Because we live so long.
Most animals, once they cannot reproduce, they die.
Wow.
Because if you think about it in the animal kingdom, like your whole point is to reproduce, right? Yeah. Like if you can't reproduce, that's it, gonzo, right? But there's a few species, humans being one of them, where women live way past their fertility years, and it's because of the grandmother effect.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that. We've talked about that.
Yeah, that is. I think for people who, kind of have that feeling of like my life is going downhill, I love thinking about that grandmother effect, because I feel like, no, there's a purpose for you. Like all throughout history, like women were leaders in their, tribes, or like in their families or in their communities. Like you can be doing that too. So
yeah,
cool.
Yeah. The human species, we're like, we owe a lot to our grandmothers, to women in general.
Yeah. I mean, you had an amazing relationship with your mother. I think you talked about that a lot. I feel like mothers and grandmothers and people, they're just underserved in society, unfortunately.
100%.
Yeah. So.
Well, not on this podcast.
Not on the. Yeah, you promote this all the time, so I'm really happy. Thank you.
Yeah, we love women.
Love it.
And yeah, they're the best. And everything I do is in a way a tribute to my mom.
So
to
sweet.
a woman. So yeah, what can I say? Well, thanks for coming out. This was super fun.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Always
Again.
fun. Yeah, always fun getting to catch up with you. And love your content, love your Instagram, reels, and you're doing like dancing trends with your daughter and stuff, right?
Yeah, I got a 16-year-old, so she's
you guys are so
when
cute.
when I'm allowed to do a reel with her, we will do that. But
so fun.
I have a son too, and he's very like, no, I will never be on a social media reel with you. But But I love your content too. And I remember we did that panel, the vegan versus carnivore. Do you remember that?
Where did we do that? It was like a Dave Asprey event or something. Yeah, I do remember that. Wow. That's amazing. Fun. Good times. Well, thanks for coming out. Just remind listeners where they can find you on social media, your handles, and where can they can pick up your book.
Okay, so Hormone Havoc, it is available everywhere books are sold. Get it from your local bookstore if you can. I want to support those. And I'm at Dr. Amy Shah is my social media handle, and amymdwellness.com is my website. And yeah, that's pretty much where it can be found. Thanks for having me, Max.
Rock and roll. Amazing. Thank you, Dr. Shah. Thank you guys for listening. Share this episode with friends and loved ones that may benefit from it, and I will catch you on the next episode. Peace. Hey, if you liked that video, you need to check out this one here, and I'll see you there.